This next ad comes to you from a company that's cooking the best omelets you'll have all year, all while changing the world one egg at a time. It's called Just Egg, and I'm happy to tell you about it because Just Egg is a cholesterol-free, plant-based egg that will give you the most decadent quiches of your life, the fluffiest scrambles, and the easiest egg sandwiches. Or in my case in particular, I love a good Just Egg scramble in the morning on an English muffin, a little bit of cheese and beautiful barbecue sauce. I think it's fantastic and it tastes great. And Just Egg has about the same protein as a chicken egg, but with much less saturated fat. Plus, Just Egg is packed with cholesterol-lowering polyunsaturated fat. Chicken eggs have severe FOMO when they look at Just Egg, and that's really the important part for me. In order for Just Egg to be successful, I think it really needs to make sure that it tastes good and is good for you, and I can happily say it ticks both of those boxes. As someone who loves eating eggs every morning, I've had to cut it back in recent years, basically because of health concerns. There's a lot of cholesterol in regular eggs, but I'm excited to have found an alternative that is good for me and good for the environment. In 2022, may your eggs be filled with Just Egg. Just Egg, really good eggs.
Lights out and away we ayo. No Breaks is back. I'm your host, Trey Kirby. I'm joined today by our local F1 expert and a man who is closely tracking the dwindling buffalo herds of the 19th century, Graydon Gordy. And Graydon, what's up, dude?
How's it going? I'm so excited to be here in the Classic Factory. From the outside, as you drive up, you'd never know this is a factory for classics, but then you come inside, you see all the machinery, you see everybody at work producing the classics. It's incredible.
Classics just flying out the windows here. Of course, we've got our team principal in the paddock, JD, making sure we're up to snuff on the latest rules and regulations.
Hello, everybody.
Great to see a car podcast in a garage.
That's perfect.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. Whether you're joining us live in the Slipstream team here on YouTube, listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, or through the Athletic app, thanks for joining us for season 2 of No Breaks. You think it's going to be as good as season 1?
I think it's going to be even better.
Even better?
I mean, we're in every possible way, we're up in the ante. We're going faster, using even less breaks than we did last time. We had almost no breaks.
Yeah, we had almost no breaks last year, but we took a couple of them. Super dramatic season last year. Weekly skirmishes, lots of fun. We'll see how it stacks up, but we'll be here every week after the races to break down what happened on the track, what happened off the track. So get your subscriptions right. Right now we're in the No Dunks feed. I think we're going to launch another one here in not too long. But before we get to the 2022 season, we got to talk a little bit about last year. Netflix just dropped season 4 of Drive to Survive, recapping the 2021 season. You watch it yet?
I am almost done with it. Normally I watch it almost in one sitting, but as these guys know, like I have like 2 infants at home, so my ability to just sit down and watch TV for like 8 hours in a row or something is maybe not what it quite was. Maybe it was 6-7 months ago. So I'm not, but I'm really enjoying it so far though.
Yeah, I think I've watched through episode 6, which is the Williams episode, I think.
I'm in the same spot, actually.
And honestly, I'm kind of dreading watching the last 2 episodes because I know it's going to get dramatic. I know I'm going to get a little bit heated. My blood pressure is going to be rising. But
we already got the Haas episode, though, which is always the best episode of Drive to Survive, in my opinion. Like,
hilarious episode.
Günther Steiner is the star of the show. I mean, I would watch a whole documentary just about him and his whole season.
I think he probably has my favorite line so far from what I've seen when they're talking about Nikita Mazepin's dad, who came in and saved Haas, and he's obviously got ties as a Russian oligarch. But Steiner mentioned he's not an oligarch. He's just a fertilizer guy. A simple fertilizer guy.
He's a classic yard man. He's my yard guy.
One of the biggest stories last year was that Max Verstappen wasn't going to be doing like the talking head interviews for this, which he's not in season 4. Do you miss him?
It actually, I'm impressed how much it's not impacting the storyline. First of all, his absence is made up for by Christian Horner's constant presence and incredible willingness to talk about anything all the time. So that helps because he kind of is the stand-in for the Red Bull narrative, and in a way that I don't know that Christian Horner is terribly likable in this,
No.
but he is probably a more dynamic villain than Max would be. I think he's good on camera, even if you come away from a lot of these kind of maybe more annoyed with him than many people even were last year. So
yeah, definitely. I think he's he's great to have on the mic, and it's kind of like, there's no Verstappen there, so I'm gonna take two times. Take my villainy to the next level two times. It almost feels a little bit like this season is Toto versus Christian Horner to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, with no Verstappen around, so he's not going to be able to be speaking for himself. They still kind of work him in there with, like radio calls or like a post-race interview, that kind of thing. But I don't know, it's just very funny to see the way these two guys go at each other.
The
Toto
look
and
into their
Christian.
lives is incredible. Like Toto Wolff, ordering more and more elaborate breakfasts, or wearing or Christian Horner doing increasingly foppish country gentrified things, skeet shooting but having someone else load his gun for him and things like that, right? It's all these things that are just incredible little highly staged but very funny looks in their lives, because somebody had to say, what do you want to be thought of as? And he's like, well, I'd like to be somebody who is portrayed ordering breakfast multiple times in this. It's
for breakfast.
Yeah, it's very. I think it's great, but I'm really liking it. I feel like the show is kind of getting some hate from maybe diehard F1 folks, old guard people who were into it before the show came around, before all the new kids showed up. But I honestly still think it's super fun.
Why is it getting hate?
I think because I think there's a little bit of they think it oversimplifies the sport. It doesn't really cover any of the engineering or the car dynamic side. You really don't get a good sense of why what happens on track happens. It's very personality driven, right? And I think people wish there was a little bit more of that. And I think that's maybe a fair critique. They could balance in maybe a little bit of education around strategy and, the development of the cars and things like that. And then there is also the criticism that they mischaracterize people some, but I actually am. I don't really care or buy that. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they're making storylines. It's interesting. It's compelling. I don't know. They're not certainly Horner is. Let's say they're making a villain out of Horner. It's he's playing into that.
Oh yeah,
he's not
made a villain.
Yeah, he's not what you. How could you portray me this way? It's so that's
It's almost like with Horner. I'm going to give you all of the villainy stuff. You choose what you want. It doesn't feel like there's much left on the cutting room floor for Christian Horner.
No.
And also, I'll say, I have never seen somebody so dedicated to pumpernickel toast.
Oh yeah,
as Toto Wolff is.
Oh,
he's ordering a
loves
pumpernickel at breakfast every single time.
He loves it.
Pump it up.
I noted that, and I guess I like pumpernickel just fine.
Same.
But not nearly at the frequency that he's enjoying it.
I can't remember the last time I ordered a pumpernickel toast at breakfast. But we got together for the Monaco Grand Prix last year.
We did.
You gotta have pumpernickel toast.
Okay, fair. Okay, fair. Our annual Monaco Grand Prix brunch, I will provide some pumpernickel. I will do Drive to Survive themed brunch items.
I love it. A lot of ginger for ginger spice, perhaps. Walking through the beautiful fields with Christian Horner.
just a calm, casual.
Yeah,
they just happened to stumble upon this video crew as we were going about our afternoon stroll in our English manner.
Yeah.
It's a hard life.
It's great. I can't wait to finish it. I can't wait to get upset again. Going down to those last couple of races. Yeah. I mean, I was watching the McLaren episode. I think it's the first time you see the collision that sends Verstappen going over Lewis Hamilton.
In
and
Italy,
it's weird where they're just kind of oh yeah, that happened. But it's going to come up later as a bigger storyline later in the season. But when you're only talking about McLaren, you're oh, just a small little crash there. Anyways, that's 2021. We're on to 2022. Got a bunch of new driver lineups here. So we're going to run through all of the teams, kind of starting at the top. Mercedes did win the Constructors' Championship last year.
They did.
That's weird to me, considering that Max Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship. But we're starting with Red Bull because they do have the champ. Is it more prestigious to win the Drivers' Championship? Does a team like Red Bull, are they upset that they didn't win the Constructors' Championship because they don't get that huge payout for being the number one team, even though their guy won, which is more glory, I would say?
think it kind of... Right. So I think the payout is the key here. I think if you're a lower team that's a little bit more financially insecure, that those spots, you're not really competing for the top title, but those spots are more meaningful than any given driver finishing. But I actually think Red Bull, they clearly at some point optimized their strategy for winning the Drivers' Championship. And I do think among fans, it's what's most remembered. Like, definitely people talk about Hamilton's championships, Schumacher's championships, etc., Senna's championships, way more than they talk about Ferrari or Williams or McLaren or whatever. Of course, there's incredible prestige with the Constructors' Championships. I'm not saying there's not, but I feel like the drivers' titles are the things that teams that are financially capable will optimize for.
Yeah.
If the millions here or there aren't a make or break thing for you.
Red Bull and Mercedes aren't going broke coming in second, is what you're saying.
Same with Ferrari. I think they don't that's not what they want to be. They want their driver on the top step.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Anyways, so the drivers for Red Bull, they got the same old crew: Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez. You think they're going to be the favorites coming in?
I think they're probably the favorites. Yeah, I think Max probably has to be the favorite to win again, especially after how things looked in practice. In these sessions in Bahrain and back in Barcelona, the car looks good. It looks fast. It looks like they've done a reasonably good job with the new regulations. And you probably got to think that Perez takes another leap. Everybody, you'd think they take a leap, but everybody's comfort with the car is going to be a little off because it's such a dramatic change. But another year, more ingrained into the culture, better working relationship with his engineers and everybody in the team. I think that you got to expect that they'll be the favorite.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Especially like you just saw how it kind of clicked into focus as a team, especially like in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, like. Verstappen being able to make his comeback and win was due in large part to Perez holding off Hamilton for that little bit of time there, giving Max a chance to catch up. That was great stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I would, one other question I have about Red Bull for you. They're making their own engine this year, right?
Yeah, they are, although it's not in name only, but they've transitioned. The Honda is exiting the sport, but basically the Honda F1 team and factory are transitioning over to Red Bull, and even some of the personnel are staying. So there's a lot of cooperation there. So it's that is true, but it's not as if it's like, okay, they started from scratch.
Sure.
And they don't have, and now they've had to just cook up with the sort of gains that you would make in the off season.
Throw an RB on there and it's all good, is what you're telling me.
That's basically what I'm saying.
All right. In our second team, Mercedes, they got Lewis Hamilton.
They do.
Ever heard of him? Pretty good. And joining Lewis Hamilton this year in Hamilton's quest for his 8th Drivers' Championship, George Russell, moving from Williams.
Mr. Saturday.
Taking the number 2 spot from Valtteri Bottas. What are your expectations for George Russell this year?
You definitely I definitely think he's going to win a race. I think he's got the pure pace, and he puts it together enough on a weekend to win a race. I think he'll be on some podiums. A lot of this is going to be impacted by the car itself. Mercedes doesn't sound very confident about their car right now. Lewis Hamilton is claiming they're not going to compete to win races. They've said that every year after year. I saw some tweet the other day where it was just screenshots of Lewis Hamilton saying in 2016, 2017, 2018, every year, like, oh, the car's not ready. We've got tons of problems to figure out. Then the first race comes around and they just like crush.
Oh, we figured it out.
Yeah, like, whoops, we figured it out in the last week, I guess. And now, so it's uncertain whether they're sandbagging or not. At the same time, they took such a dramatically different design approach to some of the other teams that I think that it's possible that they made a mistake. I mean, it is possible they made a mistake. So I think that we'll see. And that being said, I'd expect them to be very competitive. I expect George to do well. I think it makes their life easy because George one day is going to want to compete for titles, but this year it's pretty easy to say, listen, you're the number 2, and you've got to support Lewis while you kind of get your sea legs under you to compete at the very top of the grid. Do
you think he'll end up being a better number 2 for Hamilton than Valtteri was? I mean, they had a ton of success. Obviously, Mercedes did. It was just the criticisms of Bottas were always that he's finishing second, guaranteed. He's not going to beat Hamilton. Even those couple of seasons where it would come in like, is this the year? It wasn't.
To be honest, I think he won't be a better number 2 in the sense that he's better than Bottas, in my opinion, and at times will be less willing to sacrifice, less willing to not be competitive with his teammate. He's going to want to win titles, and Bottas wanted to as well, but at the end of the day, I think by the middle of every season, Valtteri acknowledged the reality of what was going on and was willing to play ball, multiple times, acquiesced to team orders, in general played a supporting role and did so well. And with that, they won, the driver and constructors titles several times in a row as a pair. So in some sense, you couldn't have asked for a better number 2. So in that, Russell will be better in the sense that I think it gives them a better shot at securing the constructors title, as I think Russell will generally perform better than Bottas will. But at times it will get complicated and messy if they end up, if Russell doesn't feel like playing ball there.
Sure.
Which he may not.
Well, and I think Mercedes, if you're in their shoes, you have to be hoping that they have like a Spurs-like sort of thing here, right? Where like Tim Duncan passing the secrets down to Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, that didn't end well. Sorry, buddy.
Let's hope that.
Sorry, buddy.
Let's hope that's not how
they did get the late title. Though. They did get the late title, so there are worse people to learn under than Lewis Hamilton.
100%, 100%. And I think that, but Lewis is famous for, I think, having tense relationships with teammates when they do really start to challenge him. I mean, his relationship with Nico Rosberg, in the early to mid-teens was as toxic as any relationship on the grid because Rosberg was pushing him and actually did take away a title from him one year, right? So I think that if you see Russell overperform, I could see something a bit like what happened with Vettel and Leclerc and Ferrari, where things are maybe quietly a little bit more tense than anybody wants to let on. I don't know, but that's all speculative. I think in actuality, you won't see that coming to pass because Lewis will be clearly and confidently ahead of him, and it won't be a debate, other than some maybe one or two on-track incidents where there's some individual moment where maybe they ask Russell to do something he doesn't want to do or something like that.
There's some good teammate moments for Russell in Drive to Survive Season 4, helping out Latifi to get his points during the season. I hope the same thing doesn't happen to us, though. Like, if I start making really great Formula One observations,
and then I start undermining
and then you get very jealous of my sweet takes.
Yeah, and I start talking about
next thing you know, Skeets is in here hosting instead.
Oh, my God.
I got to go host for Toro Rosso.
And I'm just put out to pasture.
Yeah,
then I'm just
stuff.
like okay, in your defense, right, Russell does they do talk about that instance where he basically is defending on behalf of Latifi and like is totally focused on Latifi getting points so the team can get points. I think that's was an awesome moment from him, and I assure you there will be those moments in the Merc too. I just think there will also be moments where he's very competitive against Lewis, and that will feel complicated. It's not that he's not a team player. And he loves Toto, and Toto loves him, and so.
All right. Our next team on the list, your team, kind of, Ferrari. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're a Ferrari fan here. They got their same drivers back as well, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz. They mention a lot in Drive to Survive Season 4. Ferrari is not here to come in third place. They did last year. It was a great season. What's a great season for Ferrari this year? The title?
I'm going to say it right now. This is a place where if you're a team in red, we like to say that you're back. And for me, I think that Ferrari is back. All I am is I'm back and I wear red and I'm all out of red clothes. So I'm back. They're back. I think they're going to be right at the top. I think they're going to be competing for wins. I think they're going to be back on the top step. I think Ferrari can consider it a good season if they are back in second place or they win Grand Prix, which it's been, a minute.
2019, I think, was the last race win for Ferrari.
So if they're winning Grand Prix, I think you feel great about that. If they're second in the championship, I think you feel good. However, they right now look like the team that is best positioned to challenge Red Bull for the title. I think coming out of preseason testing, they looked better than Mercedes. They were very quick. They were very reliable. They were getting a lot of laps in. I think both Charles and Carlos looked fast and looked comfortable in the car. So and they had said that they had thrown a ton of energy last year into the development of this car. They had very eyes on the prize about it. They knew they were only going to compete for so much last year, and they wanted to get back to really competing for titles. So I think they have a shot. I'll say this. I wouldn't be surprised if either of their drivers or they as a team are actually the champion at the end of the season. That wouldn't shock me. I think it's not likely, but I wouldn't be like, oh my God, where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they've got such a nice mix. Like Leclerc seems to me to be like a championship quality winning driver, and Sainz at the very least, I think he's a good driver and super reliable. Like that guy always finishes. He's not getting in scraps with anybody really, and he's gonna generally perform pretty well. Like he was ahead of Leclerc going into the summer break last year. Leclerc turned it on after he had some DNFs in the first half of the season, but once he started bringing the car home, that's when Ferrari really took off. So I think they just got two really good drivers, and like you're saying, the cars looked all right so far.
I do think Leclerc is probably the more likely to win the title in the sense that I do think he's the superior driver. I think he can hook it up in more parts, superior racecraft, superior on Saturday. It's his risk tolerance, right? It's the DNFs. It's the fact that he's willing to go for gaps or push the envelope. If he can just kind of fine tune that risk tolerance and get a little bit more lucky just a couple of times and finish a few races where his appetite to push the envelope panned out rather than backfired, he has a great chance at finishing right towards the top of the standings. Carlos, he finished 5th in the driver's standings last year. So you can't, if the car is meaningfully better, you can't write him off as a title contender. I just have yet to, to me, I feel like he's just slightly behind the Verstappen, Leclerc quality of driver. So we'll see though. At the same time, maybe Carlos is ready to take the leap. He did all of that in his first season in a Ferrari, which a lot of guys, as we saw, Ricardo, Perez, they really struggled in their first year. So maybe he's going to take an even bigger leap.
Yeah, maybe he's in NBA parlance. Maybe he's like a floor raiser. Like he's always going to be good. He's always going to be good out there. And I would say Ferrari the most handsome F1 team.
I think that's right. I think
personal
that's
preference right there.
My wife is thrilled when the Ferrari Drive to Survive episode comes around.
Yeah. Next on the list, McLaren, the Papaya guys, Lando Norris and Danny Rick. Coming back, they were 3rd in 2020, dropped to 4th last year. The biggest question I have with this team is always, who's the number one? Because to me, it should be Norris. He's been there longer. To me, he's better than Ricardo is, but Ricardo has a little bit more of a rep, and he's got some race wins in his pocket, which Norris does not have.
Including one last year, which has got to be one of the more surprising outcomes of the season, that if anybody of that duo won a race, it was Danny. I think that they go in with a true co-driver attitude. I think they're very team-oriented. I think that's a team that does pride itself on where it finishes in the driver standings. I feel like you see that both in Drive to Survive, but you actually see it throughout the season with Zach Brown's commentary. They probably talk more about their position in the driver standings than almost any other CEO or team principal. He brings it up a lot. So I feel like they have a very team-oriented attitude. If one of them excels and you find it where one of them is actually vying for the title, that could change that attitude over the course of the season. But in the beginning, I think they'll probably treat them equally and take it race by race in terms of, who's being favored strategically. So.
Is that the top 4 you think this year? Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, in some sort of order?
That is the most likely outcome. I mean, I think the one thing I'll say is that, and I don't think anything in testing necessarily makes me doubt that. I think AlphaTauri, I think Aston Martin, I think some of these other teams, Alpine for sure, could jump up and nick maybe McLaren. McLaren seems the most vulnerable to me there. I don't know that they've nailed it quite to the degree or they made the leap that they had hoped to make, where they thought, okay, new regs, new chance, to get back to the very top. I don't know if they pulled it off in the offseason or in the development over the last year. So it makes them a little bit vulnerable, but that's the smart bet is that's the top 4.
All right. Our next 3, I'm putting all of these together, Graydon, because these all seem like the same team to me. They all start with A. They've all got the same lineups as last season, and it feels like they're always battling for like the last few points that are on the grid. We've got Alpine, who are bringing back Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. We've got AlphaTauri, who have Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda. And we've got Aston Martin Racing with Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll. How are you ranking those teams right there? I mean, the triple A's, if you will. Alpine, AlphaTauri, and Aston Martin.
Maybe in the order you just named them. I'm very bullish on what Alonso can do this year. He seemed to improve a lot over the course of last season as he figured out the car, and I think he did show that he's still got it. That being said, my favorite lineup out there is AlphaTauri. I think Pierre Gasly is a supreme talent, and a better car could probably vie for a title. I think he is that good. And I think Yuki could make a leap this year. He was having a good season. He had a very up and down season where I feel like he did very well, or like the car never made it across the finish line. Yeah. So as long as he can kind of smooth that out, they could be very competitive, and that could easily be the team that ends up in fourth, ahead of McLaren, ahead of Alpine. But that's the one I'm most excited to watch. I think they're for me, I don't know that. I think Vettel is declining, and I think Stroll has a ceiling as a driver. I'm probably least bullish on Aston Martin.
Yeah, that was a disappointing season for Aston Martin last year. You know, they had their pink Mercedes during the 2020 season. It looked great. The rake regulations changed. It affected Mercedes and Aston Martin the most, for sure, but Mercedes was able to figure it out, whereas Aston Martin was not. Yeah, I'm excited for AlphaTauri as well. I like Gasly, and I also saw that Yuki Tsunoda, his big change for this season, he's not ordering Uber Eats anymore.
Oh,
he said he was ordering Uber Eats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow, that's too much Uber Eats.
That's too much Uber Eats. He said way too much. He's like, Franz Jost, I think is their team principal, right? And he's like, well, I saw that guy. He's 60 years old, and he doesn't order Uber Eats. And he's got a ton of energy, so I'm going to stop ordering Uber Eats, which I think was a hilarious
I know he loves the food.
Change.
He does talk about food. Like last year, when he moved to Italy to like try to focus on the team more, they were like, what's the best part about it? He's like, oh, it's the food. I'm eating food. Like he talks about, he's definitely my hungry boy. So it's like yeah, but that's too much Uber Eats, man. Even
that's too much.
If you're like an F1 driver, you're well compensated. You can't afford to order that much Uber Eats, but
you also got to be, I imagine, if you're an F1 driver and you order and like you just see them with your order in the car and you're like, how is this taking so long?
Yeah.
Hurry up!
Wait, but you're supposed to be eating. You're supposed to like trip. There's like so much sodium in like restaurant food. You're supposed to be, you see other guys like Carlos Sainz is like posting pictures of his food. It's like chicken and broccoli. It's the most boring meals of all time I've ever seen. You shouldn't be eating that much takeout, period.
No, it's like Derek Rose, I remember, was like, he had like a Skittles machine in his house, and like, he's like, oh yeah, well, now that I'm not 25 anymore, I have to start eating decent food. So I guess that proves that these guys are super athletes as well.
I guess
you gotta watch what you're eating.
That's what Yuki Tsunoda ordering Uber Eats 2 times a day definitively proves that F1 drivers are super athletes.
Yeah, we shall see what they do. Alpine, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, in some sort of order there. Alpine had a cool season last year. Alonso was a surprising veteran, and Ocon got that race win. Pretty cool stuff.
That was exciting.
Yep. Down the back markers. We're talking about Williams. They finished 8th in the Constructors' Championship last year. George Russell obviously went to Mercedes. So their driver lineup this year, Nicholas Latifi is back. And Alexander Albon, he's back, baby.
Welcome back.
Give him a red shirt because he's back. Is Williams heading the right way? George Russell was saying a lot of that. I wish this were my first season at Williams. You know, they scored more points last season than 19, 20, and 21 combined. But it hasn't looked good early.
It hasn't looked good early. Testing didn't look good. I think there was a lot of enthusiasm coming out of last season. I think people felt decent about the driver lineup. I know that Albon's probably not a top-tier guy, but bringing in a guy who has actual F1 experience as opposed to a true rookie felt like maybe they could put it together, but I don't know. I didn't feel good after seeing them in testing. It doesn't feel like they're making the leap back up into the midfield. It certainly doesn't feel like they'll be out there competing with the AlphaTauris and the Alpines, which should have probably been the goal. And I just don't see that. Of course, I will say it's not the gap it used to be. It's not like, okay, preseason testing, they're a second and a half behind the 9th team. They're close. They will be in the points. Some races will swing their way. I think there is a world where they're like back at the very bottom, like 9-10 again, which is a shame because I did want to see them improve. But
yeah, and somebody's got to be better last year, and obviously they had a change in leadership
Yeah, Jos also.
Yeah, Jos Capito. That guy's
he's
happy.
A character. Yeah, he's a character.
He was awesome.
He's a character for sure. I like him a lot, actually. I think he's cool. And his episode of Beyond the Grid, like the long form interview with him, F1's podcast, is great. Super interesting. Hearing him talk about his experience in rally is super interesting. But I don't know. It just doesn't. This is just very competitive. You can even do a great job as a team principal, a great job with the car, and it's just not enough. So,
what's the scouting report on Albon? Because last we saw him, he was with Red Bull, had some skirmishes with Lewis Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken, and then eventually got sent down to the lower team.
Yeah,
Rosso back then.
This has got to be something where I think the thing that I'm really looking for from Albon is not the driving ability, it's the yips. It's the psychological stuff. He seemed to get really shook. He had a few races where he was right there in it, fighting for a podium, fighting for a win. Things went awry. And those having the rug pulled out from under him seemed to really shake his confidence. At times he made a very infamous comment about how hard the other guys race him. He seemed kind of shook because people were doing really aggressive overtakes, and that's not the kind of attitude that you want a driver to have.
Why are all these guys passing?
Yeah, like to be a little bit taken aback at like how competitive the other guys are. Yeah, totally. Like that definitely didn't look good. I think that didn't show that. So I think you want to. So I think that's what you're hoping for, is just like maybe a little bit older, a little bit more confident. And hopefully in a situation where there's a little bit less pressure, and therefore beating his teammate on Saturday, getting into points, these are all wins. Those are things you can be proud of, and kind of just building back into the sport a little bit.
All right, couple more teams. Our only all-new team is Alfa Romeo, finished 9th in the Constructors last year. They've got Valtteri Bottas as their number one driver, and Guan Yu Zhou, the first Chinese driver at the Formula One level. Any idea what to expect from this team?
This has got to be one of the bigger wild cards out there. I don't think they're going to excel, but it's definitely a weird lineup, especially for a team that for quite a long time was perceived as just a feeder team for the Ferrari program. The relationship isn't as tight, but they were basically the Alpha Tauri, to Ferrari's, Red Bull, and they were. But neither of these guys are Ferrari guys. Bottas and Guan Yu aren't, right? So it's kind of like, what's this lineup? Where is it coming from? Why was this the strategic decision at the top? Is a little bit unclear to me. And certainly, I will say that Bottas got a pretty detailed look at what both Williams and Alfa were planning when they were courting him, and he went with Alfa. He said, I think these guys are the more promising team. My understanding is he basically had his choice between the two, and he was like, I'm going to Alfa. Part of that was also about guaranteed money, I think, which was always a sore spot for him with Mercedes.
Sure.
So, and Alfa was willing to commit, but I don't know.
That seems significant to me, considering he has previous history with Williams. And I mean, honestly, even if it comes down to money, you would rather be with the team that's spending more money in a sport that's driven by money.
Totally. Last year, I was shocked to see him make this decision. I would have bet a ton of money that he would end up back at Williams. So this definitely was a surprise lineup across the board, especially because also there's very talented Ferrari Academy driver guys sitting without a seat right now who you thought might have Guan Yu Zhou's seat. So I think this is a peculiar group. It's really tough to tell how these guys, but I think they're in this. We've got them in the right spot, which is somewhere in this bottom three. Yeah.
Our final back marker, the Haas racing team. They've got Mick Schumacher back, and they just replaced Nikita Mazepin with Kevin Magnussen.
An upgrade.
Major upgrade. So the question for Haas is, are they going to at least compete for 9th place this year? It was like a blowout last year. They weren't even close.
Hot take, I think they could compete for 6th place. I think they could be back in the midfield. I think the car looks good. I'll tell you right now, of these back markers, the Haas car looked the best of any of the back marker cars, for sure. I think that final day of testing in Bahrain, I think Mick Schumacher was the second fastest on track, behind only Max Verstappen. So the car looks good. Is it a world beater? Are they going to be the very top of the standings? No, of course not. But I think they could be back in the points, be competitive. I don't think it's going to be a joke like last year where it's about which of them is getting 19th and which of them is getting 20th is the question, which really it was. Like, I mean, they really were only not getting that if something went wrong for somebody else. They were. So that won't be the case this year. It will be interesting to see how Mick performs. If the car is better, can he really scrap in the midfield? So hard to assess his talent in such a poor car.
People think he's a good driver, though, right?
People do. He won the F2 championship. It's not just a name, right? I mean, he won the F2 championship. He had moments last year where it was great. He looked great on track.
Yep.
He was easily outperforming Mazepin, although I don't know that that's something to
Well, they had
write
different
home
cars,
about. They had different
that was the
cars.
Problem. They gave Mazepin the way slower
the
car
big,
that spins a lot.
bad car. I know. They had
Totally
the big
unfair.
car, the bad car, and they were like, yeah, you get the one that spins into the wall.
We know your dad's
Like
paying for all this.
car.
We're giving you the worst car, though.
Yeah. So that's, so that's hard to overcome, having the bad car of the two, but I do think that
tough.
But I do think that hopefully he does well. And then Mag is awesome, really competitive, really aggressive driver, has spent had been in F1 for a bunch of seasons.
Yeah.
So I think he brings a lot of stability and knowledge and kind of mid-season developmental knowledge back to the team. That's a tough thing about having a two rookie lineup, is that there is a really powerful feedback loop with the driver and their ability to articulate what's going on, what they need changed, how to evolve the car, with what they're experiencing on track is something that rookies have a really hard time articulating. They just don't always know what they're experiencing. Mag will be able to do that. You need to improve this, you need to improve that. That'll make us faster in slow corners, fast corners, whatever, and that'll help them a lot over the course of the season as well.
All right, there's your 20 drivers heading into the 2022 season. Just going to throw this one at you, Graydon. Feel free to just rattle these off. Who do you think are the top 5 drivers in Formula One right now? Like, if it were like Formula 2, we've all got the same car. Who are the top 5 that, got the skills to pay the bills?
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to... This isn't a hot take, but I bet you no one's expecting me to say this. But number one, I am going to say Lewis Hamilton.
Still.
I think Lewis Hamilton is a god, basically. I mean, he is out of control, what he can do. It's Max Verstappen's my number 2, and I get on pure pace, one lap to hook it up. Maybe the answer is Max, but if you talk about over the course of a race, the defending, the overtaking, the tire management, I think, Lewis puts it together in a way that almost nobody else does. And that's not even that hot of a take if Latifi doesn't spin into a wall with, 6-7 laps left last year. He wins the title again, and I think countless people are saying what I just said.
Sure.
So.
Oh yeah, I mean, if Hamilton wins the championship last year, people are maybe talking about that as his best championship ever, considering the comeback over the course of the second half of the season. I mean, those are an easy 1-2 for Verstappen and Hamilton. So either way,
I do think, for me, I'm tempted to say Leclerc at 3. I think Leclerc is a really exceptional talent. I think what he does on Saturdays, putting it on pole multiple times in that Ferrari, that is real pace. Man, that car was not as fast as some of the other cars on track. It probably was the 4th fastest car, last year on pure pace, and he was still putting it on pole, could
have won Monaco,
and almost won the British Grand Prix. A lot happened to almost enable that, but I think that, so I think that's really impressive. Norris is an elite talent, a truly elite talent. I think a guy who absolutely can compete for titles. And then number 5.
That's the tricky one for me, because I had Leclerc and Norris as well. I hope my boy Lando gets a W this year. But the 5th spot's hard to figure out. Like, Alonso was impressive last year. Sainz was impressive last year. Russell obviously has the talent, just hasn't had the car.
Russell's an interesting answer there. Again, I don't think you can say... I think Gasly's in the conversation. Gasly is still, I think, shaking off the burden of what a difficult time he had in the Red Bull. But the truth is, since he's been back at AlphaTauri, he's crushed it.
He's been great.
He's been excellent, as good. Probably the guy who I think has overperformed compared to the car more than any other driver on the grid, probably, which to me is always a great barometer of true talent. Like, where do you think the median for the car is, and then how far ahead is that guy? And you might say that over the last couple of seasons, Pierre is the guy who's furthest ahead in that regard. So, I don't know, any of those guys are a good answer, but I don't think you can throw him out.
All right, let us know in the comments who you think the top 5 drivers in the sport are right now. We'll check those out a little bit later. But we've also got some car stuff happening this season. FIA updated the regulations for this year in an effort to basically make overtaking a little bit easier, make things more exciting.
Correct.
From what I can tell, Graydon, the biggest changes are a new ground effect aerodynamic floor, new front and rear wings, the shapes of them. The side pods are different, and they got bigger tires.
Correct. All correct.
18 inches. I would have gone 20s. 22s, maybe. Spinning
spinners,
rims.
Yeah, I would have
Maybe
put
it slows
spinners
you down.
on that. Yeah, but maybe some lights under the...
Yeah. What's going to have the biggest effect here?
I mean, the ground effect, is the real, huge change here, right? To shift the vast majority of the aerodynamic kind of, the downforce being created to underneath the car from above, and hopefully that will, mitigate the effects of dirty air, maybe even eventually reduce the need for DRS and allow them to get rid of that entirely, because overtaking will be more plausible without it. That's on the kind of product roadmap or the regulatory roadmap. Their hope is to do away with DRS. So I think that's the big one, and we're seeing teams still figuring it out. You're seeing, there's some porpoising out there.
There's some porpoising.
There's a little bit of porpoising.
I hope they never fix it.
I wish there's a part of me that wishes the porpoising was a bigger problem. It was like nobody could figure out how to not.
Like, sorry, our cars just swim now.
Yeah, they're bouncing around. But I think that good name for it, by the way. Like, why porpoising as opposed to like dolphining? Lots of like things like duck in and out of the water. Yeah. But like, why did you go with the porpoise in particular?
Beautiful animal.
It is a beautiful animal.
Creature.
It is.
But it is a problem. It seems like it would be the most annoying possible thing that could happen when you're going 220 miles an hour, bouncing up and down all the time.
Especially because the suspension is actually stiffer this year as well, because they don't want it to impact the ground effect in the Venturi tunnels underneath the car as actively. So they're feeling that up and down a lot as they're coming down. They're feeling it a lot. So I think it must be weird. But that's the biggest ticket item. We'll see how well it pans out. We'll see what sort of pace they can get out of these cars. Of course, you have the simplified front wings and rear wings. The look of them is very different. The side pods for me are the other thing where I don't know if I'd call them the most important element. The ground effect, I would argue, is the most important element. But they're the most fascinating in the sense that, at least in all of my time watching F1, I've never seen greater, like, more differentiation in how people approached it. They all look really, really different. Some are like really long and wide. Some are really boxy. Mercedes are barely existent. Yeah. They're like that. These are radically different design solutions, which is normally not what you see. You see like people kind of iterating towards an optimal state, So I think that's fascinating, and it'll be interesting to see whether that really breaks up the grid and some people just did the wrong thing, or whether oppositely, there were multiple ways to skin this cat and actually have really radically different design solutions that are very competitive. I think that's also a very cool, fascinating outcome.
Yeah, so I guess it's going to be interesting to see if these if it makes things more stratified where you're like, whoops, we went the wrong way and now we're porpoising all the time. We don't have a chance here. Or like you're saying, maybe there are several different ways to do this and now the changes are actually going to work and we're going to have a little bit more parity.
Big regulatory changes do tend to usher in like eras of dominance or like shifts in the grid. Mercedes dominance over the last several years is totally in the wake of the move to the hybrid engine and them nailing that and then nailing the rest of the setup in relationship to that. So I think that set them up for years of excellence. So we'll see if somebody else can nail it to that degree.
Last little bit of news that seems important to me. Michael Massey, the former F1 race director for the last 3 seasons, has been replaced after the way last year ended. Basically, F1 also amended the safety car rule that caused a bunch of drama last season. I wonder if those things went hand in hand. What's the impact of changing a race director? They're going, with two actually now, Eduardo Freitas and Niels Wittich, who will be alternating, I think.
And then my understanding is there also will be a little bit more like off-site support for them as well. So I think that was the perception. The overwhelming perception was, I think the institutional take here was Massey made a mistake. It really probably was not entirely his fault from the stand of the FIA, in the sense that he didn't have the resources he needed. So we need to provide this person with more resources. But the truth is, this bridge is so intensely burned, he cannot be the guy anymore, because these teams are not willing to work with him. I mean, I think Red Bull was literally the only team that didn't support replacing Massey.
Okay,
I think they.
That's actually awesome.
So I think he did a great job.
He's awesome. This is the best guy we've ever had.
Yeah, I think they. I don't know exactly how that's. Did they like ask them, or was there a vote? I'm not clear on that. But I had read that like basically behind closed doors, Christian Horner was the only guy who wanted to keep him.
That's good. Why do they do it so late, though? It does seem very late in the game to me to be changing a major figure in the sport.
That's a good question. I don't know why they would wait around to do it. I guess there was a lot of hemming and hawing. I think at the end of the day, it was they too close to the event itself, to the final race. They didn't want to admit any fault.
Sure.
I think they were trying to hold a hard line and say we did everything correctly, and then with enough distance be like, oh, but independent of that, we're making a change. You know what I mean? I think
we spent the whole offseason researching this.
Yeah, totally. I think that's what they're attempting to, split the difference between. I don't think anybody's really buying that, but, you give it a shot.
All right. Well, that's all for our drivers, our cars, our directors. Got to take a quick break here, but when we get back, we're going to make some predictions for the 2022 season. Stick around.
Love it.
If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution that actually tastes good, so you can finally enjoy getting your daily vitamins. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. You gotta step your adaptogen game up, people. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, Athletic Greens is lifestyle-friendly. AG1 contains less than a gram of sugar, no GMOs, and no nasty chemicals. It's one simple thing you can do to take great care of yourself. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition with just one scoop of water. One scoop in a cup of water every day. To make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/nodunks. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/nodunks to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Spring is springing here in the South. It's coming. And for the Mellis household, it's that time of year when my wife and I argue about our thermostat before we go to bed. She likes it warm. I like it cool. Luckily, I have a Helix mattress that balances it all out. Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete and matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for someone else? With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way you sleep and perfect for me. Helix mattresses have a special one that is great for cooling you down if you sleep hot and great for saving marriages. They have soft, medium, and firm mattresses as well. Mattresses great for spine alignment to prevent morning aches and pains, and even a Helix Plus mattress for plus size sleepers. So if you're looking for a mattress, hit the internet. You don't gotta go to a store. You take a quiz, you order the mattress that you get matched to, and the mattress comes to your door shipped for free. You gotta pay for the bed though. You don't ever need to go to a mattress store again. And here's the offer. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com. helixsleep.com/no-dunks. That's helixsleep.com/no-dunks.
Finally, Liquid IV has come back to No Dunks. Welcome back, Liquid IV. One goal I have for myself this year, crush a marathon. Let's do it. We're qualifying for Boston. Let's go.
Wow.
And I'm going to be doing that with the help of my favorite hydration product, Liquid IV. One stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates faster and more efficiently than water alone. Stuff tastes great. I've been using it on a lot of my runs. We're talking flavors like watermelon, lemon lime, strawberry, probably my favorite, pina colada, and more. Went for a long run this last weekend, 17 miles. We're getting up there when it comes to the training. And I had this in my water bottle, the Liquid IV, and it's so much better than normal water. So much better. Just that nice little taste. I had the lemon lime this last weekend. It was great. Suddenly I'm like sprinting out there because of this stuff. It contains 5 essential vitamins, B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C, with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. Obviously huge if you're doing those long runs. It's made with premium ingredients. So grab Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco. Tass, I know you frequent a Costco.
I've seen it.
Can you grab me some next time you go?
Yeah, sure.
Or, you know what? Don't, because you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code NODUNKS at checkout. You probably can't go to Costco, show up to the cash register with your Liquid IV and go /NODUNKS. Or maybe you can. I mean, we'll have to ask, but I don't think you can. So do it online. Go to liquidiv.com. Use that code NODUNKS at checkout. That's 25% off anything you order when you use the promo code NODUNKS at liquidiv.com. Experience better hydration today at liquidiv.com. Promo code NODUNKS.
Boys are back. No red shirts, but we're still here. Talking about engine freezes over the break.
Hey.
You don't want to have a bad power unit. Shout out to the Slipstream team for telling me about that. Engine freezes. Had to get educated.
It is going to be a complicating factor. As we were talking about during the break, that's my belief that the secret reason you saw Bottas have to do so many engine changes last year and then be so willing to absorb those penalties is because Mercedes was really focused on engine development in the lead up to this engine freeze. I don't know if I've actually ever seen that confirmed in like the press, but I would speculate that that's what they were doing, is they were throwing him under the bus in order to make sure that they were able to move the engine far enough forward in the lead up to this.
Oh, I can't wait till he writes a tell-all book.
Yeah.
Then we'll finally get to the bottom of this drama. I don't know, what is it? What is it?
I would be interested in a Bottas tell-all book.
Yeah, sure, totally.
Very dry, very short, economically written, like a lot of very short declarative sentences.
All right, F1 does start for real this Friday. There's already been some action on the track, however, thanks to preseason testing, like you mentioned, in Barcelona and Bahrain. Are you a sicko? Are you watching these preseason tests?
I watched a little bit of them. I'm not a true sicko in the sense that I don't have them on for like all day, just on a monitor. I'm following the times, seeing how they're doing. I'm checking in each day. But let's be real. The preseason testing is not super engaging.
Honestly, I'm glad to hear you say it. I have a hard time like getting excited to watch preseason basketball.
Oh my God.
So preseason racing is a tough ask, though I did see some pretty like wild paint jobs.
I remember
they had going out for testing.
Getting into like a big argument on his site, like I forget who we were with, but Zach Lowe and I were defending the idea that like watching preseason basketball in lieu of watching postseason baseball is actually insane. I don't even like baseball that much, but like postseason baseball is inarguably better than preseason basketball. Like and a bunch of other people thought that was ridiculous because it's basketball, and I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, this is not good.
Yeah,
so.
We talked about it a little earlier. You said you've been following the times, and obviously there's a lot of news out there regarding testing. Is there a team or a driver that's impressed you or surprised you?
Well, we mentioned it earlier, but I'm really impressed with Mick Schumacher on that last day. He, I thought, looked great. The Haas car generally looks like it has taken a step forward, and the huge sacrifices they made last year were worth it. Ferrari has got to be the standout one, where a lot of pressure coming in, a lot of hype. People had said, "Oh, I think Ferrari's doing a good job. I think they can compete again for titles." That was the expectation coming into preseason testing. It appears as if they've delivered, and they have a car that can at least put one of their guys back on the top step. We'll see about the titles. So I think those are the two where they, on both kind of the low end and the high end, the ones that have got to be the winners of preseason testing, with the caveat that like nobody's shocked that like the Red Bull looks really
right,
good.
Of course,
like that. Yeah,
yeah, they won last year, still look good, and the question, of course, is Mercedes sandbagging? It always comes up to the sandbagging talk during preseason.
It does.
Testing.
I cannot believe how it's what an annual tradition, a tradition unlike any other. Every year saying the car sucks, and then it's like, oh, JK, we've all lost by like 20 seconds.
I will say it is weird that one of their solutions to porpoising was just like, just tie it down, basically. Like put a bungee cord around it and it'll hold it down and it'll be fine. There's got to be something more to that.
Yeah, it's got to be more. I don't know. The porpoising thing is a really complicated problem, a really complicated engineering problem. We'll see how much people really solve it versus how much it bleeds into the season. I also think other changes. The thing is, it might come and go because you'll see people continue to evolve parts of the car and might have unexpected. These porpoises might unexpectedly rear their head throughout the season.
You mean like? That's not a sound.
What do they do? That's like
I guess they make a dolphin sound.
Did they go like yeah, what's a porpoise make? Yeah, I don't know.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments if you ever heard a porpoise. If you've ever heard a porpoise, let us know what they sound like, please. You mentioned the 2022 season. That's what we're talking about. So let's make some predictions about it. First one I got for you, Graydon. Which team is going to make the biggest jump in the standings?
I'm gonna go with Haas.
I'm with you.
I'm going to go with Haas. I think they
Haas
can
boys.
go 2-3, up. I think, the other ones, I don't think anybody's in position to make a bigger leap than they will. In the sense that even if Ferrari wins the title, they were third last year. It's not, they've only moved up so many places. That's the porpoise? It sounds just like a...
Well, I think that's a dolphin.
Okay, that's
so hard to tell.
That's gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the porpoise, and that's just a sick
the porpoise rock band. Yeah, that's their band.
Yeah, Haas is going to score some points this year. They were competitive in the recent past.
100%.
Competitive in the like we're going to score some points and not be
Haas has
trailing everybody.
Truly embarrassing back marker is actually a comparatively recent phenomenon that wasn't the case when they first came into the sport, and I do think they can be back on the bottom half of that midfield pack consistently, and I think they can. Yeah, they're my pick. So,
is there any sort of concern with Haas about being able to continue to field a team now that they don't have their fertilizer guy around?
They claim financially things are okay, and my understanding is that Uralkali, which was the title sponsor that's now been pulled in the wake of all the various Russia sanctions, had already paid them a lot of the money. I don't know if they have to give it back, or can you even give it back? You're not allowed to wire money to people in Russia at the moment. It's I don't even know how you go about doing that. So so maybe they just pocket it and then are like, cool, we're out, and but or maybe they try to give it back. Apparently they're okay. I imagine if that rears its ugly head, it's not even this year. It's next year they have to take a step back because, developmental investments got disrupted or something like that. We'll also see how quickly they can. They are no stranger to title sponsor drama. They have had the craziest journey of weird title sponsors. So,
Yeah. Next question. This one's a tough one. Who's going to make the biggest drop in the standings? Maybe Alfa Romeo, maybe Williams. I mean, Williams was 8th. Maybe they could fall to 10th if they don't have if their car's not doing it right. And Alfa Romeo, I guess they could be 10th. But to me, I don't know.
That's a tricky one. And then just from a team standpoint, maybe it's probably Williams, honestly, sliding 2 back, unless you see somebody like. unless like McLaren's way off the mark,
Sure,
and ends up at the back of the midfield or something unexpectedly, they're actually not that competitive against AlphaTauri and Alpine and the like. That I could see that happening. The other one here, lest we forget, I mean, this would really shock me, but the answer could be Mercedes.
Sure.
I mean, if Mercedes is not sandbagging and they really didn't nail the car design, and suddenly they're fourth in the championship or something, I mean, that's a huge slide. So,
well, I mean, even coming in third is a huge slide for them, right? Because, I mean, I don't know, at least for the past couple of seasons, it's been 1 and 2 are so far ahead of even 3 and 4 that, you're playing in a different field, in a different game, basically. So, yeah, I guess it's going to be interesting to see, like, how much are you faking the funk here, Mercedes? You got 2 good drivers. You've had a ton of success, but new cars. Let's see how
we're definitely there.
Out.
Their boy who cried wolfing us, right? Like at this point, nobody believes them, but I guess we'll see. We'll see on Sunday.
All right, which driver do you think is going to be most successful on their new team? Probably a pretty easy pick here. George Russell moving to Mercedes, though. We'll see.
Yeah, Russell, I think probably has the biggest leap in points. That's he's at the biggest jump there. Yeah, I mean the answer is probably Russell, right? I guess there's. I'm not that bullish on Guan Yu Zhou's. Not to knock him as a driver. I just think it's incredibly hard to be a rookie in the sport. I don't actually think Albon is going to be all that successful. The sleeper here is K-Mag.
K-Mag. Is that his nickname?
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. I think, he's going to look the most impressive, I think, because Haas's car should probably be better.
Probably.
He's going to be better than Mazepin was last year.
By a country mile.
And you would think that he will help Mick Schumacher out, so they'll probably just get a little boost there with Schumacher being in his second year as well. So yeah, I feel like we're a little too big on Haas right now, to be quite honest.
You think we're a Haas? I'm thinking I'm revising my prediction. Haas wins the title. Say it straight to the Schumacher, K-Mag, 1-2, Haas. Drivers and constructors, they clean up.
That would be.
It's not even close.
That would be quite the season.
They're winning races by 10, 20 seconds. It's like, yeah.
Who's taking home the most DNFs this year? I don't know if you take home a DNF or if you just leave it out there on the course.
It's a shame because Mazepin's the easy answer here if he's still in a seat. I hope it's not my short king Yuki, but it might be. Like, Yuki is kind of a mess out there sometimes.
He was a crash monster last year.
He's a bit of a crash. He's a bit crashy. I feel like the answer is Yuki, but I don't want it to be.
I think Albon will challenge for the DNF title as well.
That's actually a good answer.
A bit of an aggressive driver. Like we mentioned, he had the touch-ups with Hamilton not too long ago, and Williams' brakes were catching on fire during preseason testing. I saw Nicholas Latifi was putting his own car's fire out with a fire extinguisher. That's kind of like when you're a driver and you don't like being passed and you get upset about it. You also don't want to be the driver who has to put your own car out when it's on fire.
Yeah,
so
yeah, fair enough.
Behind the 8 ball for Williams to start the season. Here's the big two questions, though. Who's going to be the constructor's champion? Who's going to be the driver's champion? Handle them separate or together if you want to.
I thought a lot about this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to I mean, there's like what I really think, and there's my hot take answer. I'm going to say Ferrari and Charles Leclerc. I'm going to go with my heart.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, you could easily pick Red Bull and Max Verstappen, but that's no fun. I mean,
it's no fun.
I even picked Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton last year. I'm doing it again. It's a bounce back year, but now it'll be fun because it's a bounce back year.
Nobody's picking Red Bull on this podcast.
It's hard, man. Honestly, Red Bull should probably be even better this year, don't you think? I mean, Perez,
probably.
Kind of a weird season for Perez. Like I was he to me, like you were mentioning, Gasly is a guy who gets a lot more out of his car than it seems like he should. That to me was Perez before he got to Red Bull. So I thought he would hop into this elite car and be one of like the championship contending drivers, which I think he finished 4th. Right. So he was, but it wasn't like instantly a perfect match there.
But he finished 4th, but like 25 points.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even ahead of like Carlos Sainz in 5th, which is, given the gap between those cars, that should have been much larger. You know, that's actually where I will say with this, you could see another split title where, you know, Max walks away with the Drivers' Championship. He's so talented and he's in a great car. But if, let's say, Ferrari has a very competitive car, or even the equivalent car to Red Bull, are Leclerc and Sainz the better duo, and do they bring home the constructor's title? I think that's plausible. Same thing with Merc. If Merc figures out the car and it's actually really good, it seems to me like there's multiple guys who could take the title, but actually a different team was better.
Yeah, to me it seems like Red Bull is a lock to finish in the top 3 of the teams out there. They're the most they're going to finish top 3 and be great. Top 2 probably, to be quite honest.
If they're not top 2, I'd be pretty shocked. Yeah. If they're not top 2, it's only because, I guess what I'm about to say is obvious, but it's like I think Mercedes and Ferrari, have wildly overachieved. If somehow they knock Red Bull out of the top 2, it's like that's a huge outcome for both of those teams. A huge outcome.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is just that Red Bull seems like, they've had a lot of great seasons in a row. They finally got over the hump last year with Max winning. They're gonna be good again. Whereas Mercedes, it seems like they're probably sandbagging. They've got good drivers. They've been great in the past. They'll probably be good as well. Hopefully they are sandbagging, and hopefully Ferrari's preseason testing is legit, and that they can actually compete as well, because having 3 teams go for the championship, that's better than having 2 teams go for the championship.
People forget, but even just back as recently as 2017, 2018, that 16, 17, 18 era, even in 19, Mercedes was always pretty confidently winning the titles. They were normally not that threatened in the Constructors' Championship. But in actuality, Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes all were regularly winning races.
Sure.
The team you saw on the top to win any given race was very, very competitive across those 3 teams, depending upon which the track favored their various car designs. And I think you could see a world where we're back in that, where it's actually, even if somebody emerges as the leader of the pack, actually any given race is very exciting. And there's a lot of the wide array of design directions we've seen with the cars, leads to a lot of variance track to track. So
hopefully that's the case. You got our picks: Charles Leclerc and Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. Homers, big time Homer picks here, but leave yours down below in the comments. We want to hear who you got for the Constructors Champion and the Drivers Champion in the 2022 season. We're going to take one last break here. When we get back, we're going to Bahrain. We're staying here, but we will be talking about the Bahrain Grand Prix.
In our
Stick around. Yeah, here's a live ad read for you.
Okay.
Looking around the Masterclass website this morning on the quest for Inspirato for today's live ad read. And the thing that caught my eye today, Nancy Cartwright teaches voice acting. Straight up Bart Simpson.
Oh, that's who that
cool.
is. Yeah.
Teaching a class? I hate school. Wild stuff.
Don't have a cow, man.
Eat my shorts, Lee. It made me think, could I be a voice actor?
Sure.
Probably not, to be quite honest. I think it's funny enough that I talk for a living.
Yeah, me too.
I would say after my wide hips, my voice is one of my least favorite things. Wide hips, number 1, voice number 2. But if I ever wanted to try a career as a voice actor, I'd start with Nancy Cartwright's course on Masterclass. Because with Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds, anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. With over 100 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. You can get unlimited access to every masterclass and 15% off an annual membership by going to masterclass.com/no-dunks today. That's masterclass.com/no-dunks. Terms apply.
Cowabunga.
This morning, my 4-year-old child was sitting at her mini breakfast table, scarfing some Lucky Charms, and I asked her to make my pick'em game selection for me. I said, who is going to win? The Detroit Pistons or the Miami Heat? She proclaimed, the Miami Heat! Then she farted. And she said, oh, my butt said no. So I said, great. Because I didn't want to pick the Miami Heat. I'm picking the Detroit Pistons. Sometimes you need help finding what you want to say from an outside source, and that's where Grammarly comes in. It doesn't fart for you, but Grammarly is more than a spelling and grammar checker. It's an all-in-one writing tool that allows you to clearly and effectively communicate your ideas. Grammarly's free and premium features can save you time and give you the confidence of knowing your writing is professional. Grammarly helps you strike the right tone. You need to go informal, you're talking to friends. Sometimes you got to get professional. What I like is Grammarly Premium's full sentence rewrites, because I can get stuck. Sometimes if a sentence isn't great, I try and correct one part of it. Oh, this is where it is. This is where it is. But no, I just need a whole jumble. I need a whole restart, and Grammarly Premium does those whole sentence rewrites I like. Get through those emails and your work quicker by keeping it concise, confident, and effective with Grammarly. Go to grammarly.com/nodunks to sign up for a free account. And when you're ready to upgrade to Grammarly Premium, get 20% off for being our listener. That's 20% off at grammarly.com/nodunks.
And we're back. I'm messing with my monitors. This is what a dum-dum. What a dummy. Anyways, this isn't just a season preview for the Formula One season. It's also race week, Graydon. Bahrain Grand Prix kicks things off this weekend. We got practice Friday, qualifying Saturday, then the real deal Sunday morning, 10:55 a.m. Eastern.
That's a nice time. That's a nice time.
a.m. Eastern.
Here in the Eastern time zone.
That's right. It'll be on ESPN, the big boy ESPN. We're not on ESPN2 for the race, so you know it's a big deal.
The worldwide leader.
Yeah, that's right. 22 races currently on the calendar, going until November with a lot of breaks in between. Got 2 races in the States this year, actually. They added that Miami one.
Yep.
I suppose they could add some more races to the calendar, but we shall see. Definitely starting in Bahrain. Last year's podium, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas there with Mercedes. If you remember this race, Verstappen overtook Hamilton lap 52, but it was outside track limits. Hamilton may or may not have forced him or tricked him to go outside of track limits. So then Max had to get the spot back. Hamilton takes the lead. He wins. Took all of one race for these two to get into a skirmish last year. I wonder if we'll see the same sort of fireworks this year. Lewis Hamilton has won in Bahrain in 2014, 2015, 19, 20, and 21. Do you care at all about historical records when the regulations have changed? Are we just throwing it out the window?
I think he likes the track and he excels there, but it's also it's like there's so many tracks where it's like, and Lewis Hamilton is one here this year, and it's like you need multiple hands to count them all. Like, so it's almost, he's such an anomaly in that regard. I don't know that it makes him the favorite going into this weekend, but I guess we'll see. I do think this is an interesting track because it's probably one of the ones where you see the biggest gap between practice and the race itself, because practice is during the day and then it goes into the evening, and track temperatures change a lot over the course of the day. That affects, I think, tire strategy a lot. There's a lot more X factors there. All the more interesting because the tires are new. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of data still to be collected on how they handle, how they degrade, and what the optimal strategy is. This is always a tough track to nail the tire strategy, even more so this year. So that's got to be
because of the temperature differences in
because of the temperature
air temperatures.
Yeah, the temperature differences in the air and the track temperature. I think that's got to be that's the biggest factor, because I think only P2, like practice 2, is the only one where they're running kind of close to race conditions. Okay. So it makes it a challenge to know you don't have the right data. So, and I think all the more so because these tires are pretty new. Yeah,
that makes sense to me. With the NBA, we always do after it kicks off on Tuesday night, 2 games, then they play like 100 on that Wednesday night.
Yeah,
we always do. It's only 1 game, but where we're overreacting to what happened in the very first thing of the season.
Love to overreact.
Does that happen for Formula One?
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, I assume yes, but this year you got to be like, okay, so we got a completely new car. We don't know what's going on with the tires. We don't know what's going on with the porpoises. We don't know what sound a porpoise makes.
No.
Does it make a dolphin noise?
Does it even make a sound? Do you think it's like a cow thing?
Yeah, so to me it seems like it's going to be hard to overreact to this one unless somebody comes away, like completely blows out the field and you're like, uh-oh, that's the best car by far.
I could not disagree more. I think it is so easy to overreact to this one. It's a blank slate.
All right.
No matter who wins, you could say they're going to win every race. I think it's a perfect platform on which to say literally whatever the heck you want. to just go perfect as extreme and crazy with your takes coming out of it as you want.
Well, maybe this is when the Haas March for the Championship starts. Then.
Oh, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This is Mick. The Schumacher is crowned yet again.
If you had to make a pick for who wins this weekend, who you got?
Oh my God. I mean, I guess Max is the smart pick. As the smart pick, but
not me, Graydon.
This has got to be I mean, that's as impossible. That question will get easier as the season goes on, but that's a tough question to answer from where we stand right now.
Well, it's going to be Carlos Sainz. I don't know if you know that.
I love that answer. I love that answer. It's right there.
Here's another one I need to know. Is Lando Norris getting a win this year?
I'd love to see it, although I feel like all episode I've kind of been dogging McLaren or like a little bit bearish on them. So I don't know if but the truth is he's got the talent, and I think you'll see enough variation, and actually the field is tight enough that the difference between the very top teams and the midfield teams is narrow enough that yes, Norris can pull it off. I think he might need a little bit of help, but let's hope so, because he really deserves it. He really deserved it last year in Sochi. Speaking of which, I think you mentioned there are 22 races on the calendar. I think they intend to add a 23rd.
Yeah. Because
they canceled Sochi and now there's 22, but I think they're going to replace it. So I do think in the end we'll get 23.
Just like Michael Jordan, just like LeBron James.
Yeah.
Just like Draymond Green.
And it looks like we might get a third next year. We might get a third American race, or soon.
Where?
Las Vegas.
Woo!
That's what they're talking about.
Talk about managing
I don't know if the
tire
pen's to
temps.
paper.
That'll be a tough one.
I don't know if the pen's to paper yet, but I think they're literally talking about setting it up where like the main straight is the strip. It would be like a road race in Las Vegas. I know, it'd be insane.
That'd be really cool.
It'd be insane.
They still gonna have the guys standing on the corner. Hey, strip club, you want to go?
I guess.
Just yelling at the drivers as they go by.
I mean, why? That's part of the landscape.
Craziest thing one of those guys ever said to me. Hey, you want some nipples on that beard? What? What?
What was your answer to that?
Yeah. But I gotta go record a summer league show. Maybe I'll see you later.
I'm trying to watch some preseason basketball here. I don't want to.
Exactly. But I think that does it. For us. We talked about every driver. We talked about all the cars. We made some predictions. We looked at the race this weekend. I don't know what else.
I can't wait to go back and listen to this episode at the end of the season and realize like how off my predictions were, like just how wrong I was.
That's all right. That's how it is. Thanks so much to everybody who joined us today. Make sure you follow Graydon on Twitter at Mr. Gordian. It's the only way you're going to find out where the buffalo were in the 19th century.
It's incredible when you see that map to think they reached all the way down here to Atlanta. There's buffalo herds naturally here in Atlanta.
Love to hear it. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, basically wherever where there is social media. It's at No Dunks Inc. Subscribe to The Athletic at theathletic.com/NoDunks. Only $1 a month for the next 6 months. And I know they got F1 content coming around the bend. Also, send us some emails. Hit us up at nodunks@theathletic.com. Put no breaks in the subject. We're going to be doing this show a lot more this season, so your questions will be much appreciated, and you'll ask us some things that we never even thought about. You got anything, JD?
No, that's all I got. Yeah, just
great.
That's it.
All right, make sure to tune back in to No Breaks next week. It's the only F1 podcast that plays you porpoise sounds. Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Stay speedy, people. Vroom, vroom.
Meow.
Nice.